All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you for tuning in for our monthly Virtual Authors Impact Hub author meet and greet. I am your host, Juanita Woodson, the founder of the Authors Impact Hub. So I'm excited, right? I am super inspired and motivated by the authors that we have on here with us tonight. I'm excited that we were able to bring this together to be able to give authors a platform to be able to share their author journeys, share about their books, and inspire you, right? Whether you're an aspiring author or a reader who's looking for some motivation, some thriller, or something to read to your kids, right? Because we have had authors from all different genres to join us. So if you have not watched some of our other virtual author meet and greets, you want to go to our YouTube page and make sure that you watch the replays, right? Listen to our weekly podcast. We have authors from different genres on every single week. That's the Authors Impact Hub on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, all those platforms, and even follow us on our Facebook page. Right, we give like a brief clip on what you can expect for our authors. So I'm excited tonight. We have three amazing authors on with us. We have Shelly Lee, we have Arthur Smith, and we have Overseer JT Harrison. So I'm excited, right? I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your journeys, a little bit more about what you can maybe tell aspiring authors about what you went through in your writing process, the marketing process, because as authors, we know that's a totally different game, right? Writing the book is so different from marketing your book. So we want to be able to inspire some other people. So I'm going to kick it off to our lady for the night. We only have one lady author on with us, so we'll get you to introduce yourself, tell us where you are from, and the title of the books that we will be discussing tonight.
Hello, everyone. I am Shelley Lee. I reside in Beaumont, Texas. I am the author of three books, self-published wise so far: God Spoke and I Listened, the Sheldra series, and Unknown Love. And let me encourage you to pray, believe, and wait. I am glad to be on this platform. This is my first time on here, so I look forward to learning also.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And Overseer JT Harrison, if you can just introduce yourself and let us know where you are from and the books that we will talk about tonight.
Amen. Amen. Well, Overseer JT Harrison, I am from Chester, Pennsylvania. I'm currently right now in my second home of Williamsburg, Virginia, handling some business. Amen. I am the proud parent of this young lady that's hosting this event tonight. Juanita Nicole is my baby girl. Amen. And we're so grateful to be on two books that I pray to talk a little bit about tonight is one, the state of the mind. And the second is the 10 traits of a man of God. Glad to be out tonight with you guys.
Awesome. Yes. And small plug, yes, that is my daddy. I'm excited to have him here. He was like the first person that read my first book. If you did not read it, small plug, don't go that way, protect your purpose. So yes, he's been my biggest supporter, cheerleader. Yes. So shout out to my dad for being on with us tonight. And then we have Arthur Smith. He is another amazing author who's joined our community and who's been super like vibrant and loud about the community. So I want to give it a shout out to you. Thank you so much for all that you pour into our community. If you can introduce yourself, let us know where you are from and the title of the book that we will be discussing tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My name is Arthur Smith. I am from Indianapolis, Indiana, proud husband of a beautiful wife, two great children. And I'm the author of the book called Layers. It's a collection of poetry. It's my first release, but very far from my last release. So that's what we'll be discussing today.
Yes, awesome. So we'll have an opportunity for our authors to share how you can connect with them on social media and also order a copy of their books, right? We'll do that towards the end because we want to make sure that you tune in tonight, ask some questions. So I'm just going to shout out real quick. our listeners that are on. So we have Selena Spurlock, Crystal Harrison, and I hope I don't say your names incorrectly. Please correct me if I'm wrong because people butcher my name, Juanita, all the time. So I want to make sure I say your name right. Latanza Beasley and Taisha Hooper. So, as you're on tonight with us, we do appreciate you joining. Please, if you have any questions as we go through the Q&A, drop it in the chat. But you also have some time to come off of mute and interact with our authors. We want to make sure that you ask them some questions that you have as you listen a little bit more about their journeys. So we're going to kick it off to author, right? So we're going to start our Q&A. So what inspired you to write your books?
So, what inspired me to write this particular book or to put together, let me say, what inspired me to put this out is because I experienced a life-changing event and it made me think about legacy, leaving something for my wife, for my children. And I've been writing for several years and never put anything out. But that event forced me to like say, what are you waiting for? If you don't do it now, when will you do it? So kind of motivated me to put that out. Uh, but yeah, that's what got me just life changing events, knowing that I want to be able to leave something behind for people to hold on to when they can't hold on to me.
Absolutely. And I can relate to that. So a fire has been ignited in me, right? So if you are joining us and you're an author, you've joined the Authors Impact Hub, right? So this fire ignited in me this year after losing my brothers, right? So for me, it was the Authors Impact Hub. So I want to make sure that I leave a legacy for my family, but I also create a platform for my family to leave a legacy, right? Because I want to make sure that their voices are heard, they're able to tell their story. So I can absolutely understand and agree with you with that. So Miss Shelley, if you can let us know what inspired you to write your books.
Growing up in elementary school all the way through college, I was always told that I was a great writer and I wrote well and so I'd help my fellow students and whatnot. But on the side of being a great writer, as they call me, I had 7 tablets. And in those 7 tablets, I had messages that I got from the Lord. I had message thoughts of what I wanted to be when I grew up. As an adulthood, I carried them from childhood to adulthood. And then in 2015, God told me it was time to put it on paper. So those 7 tablets equated to my first self-published book.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. It's so funny because when I was younger, I used to write all the time. So my dad actually, he recently shared a picture of me writing when I was younger. And it's crazy because we used to have this barter system, right? I'll let him tell his own story. But I used to type the sermons that he spoke, I used to type them for him. So I've always loved like typing, but also writing. Like journaling has been my thing since I was younger. So I can relate to you, Miss Shelley. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And Overseer, if you can share with us what inspired you to write your books.
Amen. Well, I tell you, some of the same, what you've heard from the other authors, wanting to leave legacy, to carrying around boxes and boxes. I just left the property, boxes of notebooks and notepads with sermons and lessons. But ultimately, what really inspired me was constantly hearing one of our listeners on tonight, Crystal, I call her Pastor Crystal, my wife, your mother, always said, you got books in you. Baby, you got books in you. Baby, you got books in you. And you know me, I wasn't the writer guy in the sense of writing a book. I left that to you and mom. Y'all were the readers and the writers. But after so many people kept saying, listen, overseer, you've got books, you got to put that down. And so I was inspired to start first getting over my own perception of myself. That inspired me that maybe there is something inside, and let me try to write a book.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. We all are writers in our own respect. Maybe it doesn't always sound as eloquently as we want it to sound, but we are going through your own experiences. And one thing that I love about writing in our own experiences is that we know that our purpose is not just for us, right? So we go through those experiences and we're able to share that in our own way with someone else. So maybe it's your experience, but someone else types it for you or writes it for you, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. So I want to stop right here and I want to give the opportunity for some of our listeners. If you have a question before we dive into our next discussion question, do you have any questions for our authors? All right, so we're going to start with Miss Shelley on this next question. So, how do your personal experiences influence your writing?
So my books are based on things that I went through, challenges as a single parent, not feeling well, feeling lost and down and out at times, not feeling like my prayers were being answered. So those are some of the testimonies and trials and tribulations that I went through that turned into testimonies of triumph that my books are based on. So in other words, my books are based on my life. And then the Sheldra series, it's a series based on my life experiences, all on a theme of love.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So, your books, what genre do you typically write in for your books?
Christian inspirational.
Christian inspirational. Okay, I love that. So I've been a single parent, right? Having to navigate those experiences. So when you talk about your own personal experiences, what's that feeling like, right? Because sometimes you have to you're pouring out your own experiences and it's personal, right? So what is that like saying, "Hey, I'm going to publish this and share it with the world?"
I have no problem with it because I know that it can help the next single parent to see that Shelly overcame. I can do the same thing too.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And author, we're going to jump to you with that same question, right? So, how do your personal experiences influence your writing?
My personal experiences have a heavy influence on my writing. I write from the standpoint of really me. So with layers specifically, I think sometimes when I reread the book, it's heavy on activism because at the time of publishing, we was in the middle of COVID with all the unrest going on with George Floyd and things like that, and that weighed heavily on me. So I guess I took that out in writing and put that into the book. But then even outside of that, whether it's experiencing love or heartache or even watching somebody and just how they move and just God will kind of drop something in you. So from that experience of just using your senses, I take all that and pour it into my writing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as a poet, right? A writer, because I know that your writing is more like a poetry style. Do you think that writing has like healed you from your experiences?
That's a very tricky question. That I want to say yes and no. Um, and I say that because it heals you in the sense that you're able to get it out. I'm not one who does a whole lot of talking. Uh, I don't do like therapy, and there's nothing wrong with therapy, but that's just not something that I'm comfortable with. So my therapy is to write it out. But even when you write it out, you still got to live and deal with that. Um, and so the tricky part about poetry, which is one of the areas that I write in, uh, I do spoken word from time to time too, just reciting my work. And so you can write something that you've dealt with. And it's like sometimes when you go to speak that stuff, you're reliving it all over again. It's almost ripping that band-aid off. So are you healing? Yes, but then you still, in a sense, can kind of feel what it is that you're writing and expressing to people. So it's a very tricky question, but I would like to say yes and no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that, right? Because you're reliving it. You're like, okay, I wrote it, so I think I'm healed. But then you talk about it. So it's like, oh, you're ripping that band-aid off that you thought the scar was healed underneath, right? But we know that the only healer, the only healer that can heal all things is Jesus Christ. So we know that even when we're writing it out, we're talking about it, we still need the love of God that comfort, that grace that he can only give us. So absolutely, I understand that. Yes.
Absolutely.
But it's still good to write it out because sometimes we can't verbalize it. But if we write, he knows our thoughts, right? He knows what we're thinking, so you're able to write it out and talk to him a little bit better. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. Yes. And overseer, if you can share, how do your personal experiences influence your writing?
Uh, you know, really I'm gonna be redundant on purpose because I believe it's the same. My uh, scripture that I go to for that is you should be like a written epistle, read and known of all men. Right? My life is a book, yet not written. Though God is the author and the finisher of our faith, but it's my life which is that I'm using to tell my story. When I look back over my life, and then there are certain uh, high moments and certain low moments that foster the basis for me writing a book, like State of the Mind. Personal experience was growing up in Philadelphia, a little city called Chester. Shout out to Chester, PA. And then moving to the great city of Williamsburg, Virginia, and then eventually, reaching the highest office in the local government. But when I looked at my childhood, no one would ever pick me to be like a mayor. No one would have ever picked me to do the things that I've done and have accomplished. But it was the state of my mind, and going through the things that I went through. So it's really a reflection of my personal story being told. My life really influences my writing, faith, and you talked about my sons, your brothers. Things that we've experienced in life usually trigger stories that could be told, or we say they overcome by the blood of the Lamb, right? The Bible, and by the blood, by the word of their testimonies. It's just putting it on paper. So yes, my writing is influenced by my personal life.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And so how do you, if you are able to, expound on that, how do you, when you're reliving those personal moments or experiences, how do you say, I'm okay with like sharing it with the world, becoming an author, a published author? Because it takes you a step further from just writing.
True, true. Let me say this: it's the therapy, as our one author said, it's like therapy. Being able to write it. What I've experienced is sitting down and gathering the thoughts, reflecting on the experience, uh, something that, we've done in our household. Everybody journaled somewhere or another. So having a journal, looking back over the actual event or the situation, uh, getting into the prayer closet and praying about the situation. I wasn't able to write until I had to sort of wash my mind with the word, if you will, thinking of like the state of the mind. I had to wash my thoughts with the word. And once I got healed, and when I say healed or am being healed, I like it when the brother said, yeah, yes and no, because it's an ongoing process, the healing piece. But once I got to the point of putting my thoughts down on paper and then looking at the word, trying to see how this lines up with the word, that's when the healing took place. That's, being able to put your thoughts on paper, but then look for the word to support that thought or the truth about that thought, because that's what came up in the state of the mind. I had to discover the truth. This is what I was thinking, but writing it down, being able to get it out of your mind on paper, and then begin to look at truth, the word of God concerning those thoughts. That was definitely a healing process. The 10 traits of a man of God. I mean, I'm sharing the ugly in my life in that book. I'm sharing the ugly. I mean, you're talking about telling the whole world your sin. Most of the people that buy this book and men's group and prisons and things of that nature, they say, my God, man, you're honest. I don't know if I can tell all it's a tell all. I share my failure, my fall since being, let's say, a man of God and saved. But I had to get over it, to get healed. I had to come clean. I had to confess. Bible says, confess your fault once to another. So that's what I did through writing, through sharing that, and then lining up with the Word of God, and then writing the Word in my writings. Also, I had to receive what the Word was saying, and so that it became, like he said, sort of a self-counseling session. But writing is therapeutic. It's therapeutic.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, I love that. So we do have a question in the chat from one of our guests on tonight. After we answer this question, I'm going to open the floor back up to our guests. If you are wanting to come off of mute and ask your questions, please do. We want to hear your voice. So we'll start with this question. So what is your biggest motivator?
My biggest motivator when it comes to writing is my daughter, Juanita. Juanita, and I would say also Pastor Crystal. Now, these are two writing phenoms. I still don't see myself as a prolific writer, even though I'm working on book 3 and 4. But this young lady, my daughter, inspires me. I figure, hey, she comes from me, and if she's able to put this kind of content out, I had to look within myself and say, wait, maybe you do have. I'm not as great as she is when it comes to writing, but it's sort of. I think I can. I know I can. She's my motivator, and then I would also say, I guess above all else, my faith in God. Knowing that He put greatness in me, uh, that's a motivation to know what's inside of me.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And author, if you can answer that question next. So what is your biggest motivator?
So much like Overseer Jay, my family's a big motivator for me because I know that they want to see me excel, but I also want to do something to make them feel proud of. Um, God is also my motivator. I think one of the things that's really always kind of pushed me in my writing because I think I needed it myself. There was a time where I wasn't able to express. And so I saw early and I learned in an early age that God typically He kind of puts me through stuff. And then after I go through it, somebody else goes through it. And I'm able to kind of help them and talk them through the process. So that's one of my biggest motivators to be able to do something to where I can, even if the person can't find the words, it's like somehow God gives me the words. And it's like, I think one of the most humbling experiences or that you could have as a writer, somebody's like, it's like you've been looking directly at my life or in my journal or something, or you said it perfectly and I couldn't figure out how to get it out. And it's just really humbling. So that's one of the reasons why I write is for those who uh, either don't really know how to express or don't feel the freedom to fully express that they way that they want. So it gives them a outlet or even a avenue to get beyond whatever they're dealing with.
Like the pastor and Mr. Arthur stated, faith and family. But my other motivator is that I'm not just writing, it's a gift also, but it's a business for me also. Besides being an author, I'm an author coach too. So I would like to quit my day job and work my business full time. That's my main motivator besides my faith and my family. And so that's what I'm working on trying to do with this. It's not easy, but it's coming along. Pen Paper Publish is my company, and it's been around since about 2020. So God is working it out and enlarging my territory slowly but surely in my human mind, but it's coming about.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Listen, stay connected with the Authors Impact Hub, right? We are connecting you with the authors, right? The resources that you need to fulfill your purpose. So if that's coaching other authors, stay connected because we're gonna make sure that you get all that you need to be able to fulfill that purpose. So I love everything that you all said. Absolutely. So I know one of the biggest things, and you'll often hear me say this if you listen to the podcast, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere that you can connect with me. I say that your purpose is not just for you, right? So your gifts are not just for you. We're not supposed to hold it captive. We're not supposed to hold our testimony captive, right? No matter how much trauma may be behind that, we're supposed to share when we believe in Jesus. We're supposed to share because somebody is going to be healed by it. Somebody will be able to fully walk in their purpose and their gifts when we fulfill our purpose. So absolutely, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to start with Miss Shelley. So what message do you hope readers will take away from your work, whether that's your books or even your author brand as an author coach?
My message is that by faith, we can do anything. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. That's my message. I feel like we all got a story to share, and sometimes fear can keep us back from sharing that story. Fear keep us sitting on our testimony. And that next person beside you may need your testimony for their transformation. So that's my message.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. You know, our purpose is not just for you, so you gotta keep showing up. Absolutely. Overseer, we're gonna drop that next question to you. So what message do you hope readers will take away from your work?
Readers, I hope that they will take away that you can do anything you put your mind to, with me, with the mind, right? You can do anything that you put your mind to. Is that, don't let negative thoughts rule your life. That's another thing. You can do anything you put your mind to. Don't let negative thoughts dictate your life. And then watch this. I guess this is the carrot. God tells us to write the vision and make it plain. Well, I'm hoping that they understand that their life is literally a vision someone else God wants to read. He wants them to read your story. And he said, if you write it and make it plain, they that read it can run. So I pray that folks read and are energized to run this great life, this life of faith.
Yes, absolutely. And we're gonna kick it back to you, author. So what message do you hope readers will take from your work?
Essentially, I think it's really two. The first one is that you're not alone in what you're going through. Somebody's experienced it. There's a story for virtually every situation in the Bible, but um, again, we're probably the only Bible that a lot of people will read. So let people know that you're not alone. Others can relate and connect. But secondly, um, that it's okay to feel. And I think I'm becoming more passionate about that last one from the male perspective because as black men specifically, we're just hard. Um, and it's not necessarily that we're not in touch with our feelings or anything like that, but it's never really been a safe place for us to truly express or even explore our feelings. So, um, and that's where I had to kind of get to get through layers, and then even the next book that I'm working on releasing, actually getting beyond just like the basic level of yeah, I'm cool or I'm not okay to why am I not okay or just to be able to express that I'm not okay. I think one of the most powerful things that's happened of late. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I know a lot of people have the Jamie Foxx special that he just dropped on Tuesday, and just seeing how vulnerable he was from his life changing experience, but how I watched my timeline of men from my era and above talking about how that kind of broke them down. And I think we're just now getting to a spot to where it's okay for us to even admit that, man, this made me tear up. You know, I felt that, so that it's okay to feel. That's probably one of my biggest messages that I want people to get from my writing.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know if I can even comment on that because I'm not a man, right? So I don't know how it feels for a man to be able to express their feelings, but I think it's important for men, right? Like you and overseer to be able to put it on paper and share your message, right? Be able to share your message so other men can know that it's important for you to share your feelings, right? And to have a safe space, right? So being able to, and maybe that's something that you do through your works, right? Creating that safe space, that community for other men to be able to feel like they're able to share their voice and heal by sharing their testimony. I think that's important. So we're gonna go to, I know Selena has a question in the chat, and then we're gonna jump to Crystal. Pastor Crystal, she has a question, her hand is up. So Selena asks, what were some of your challenges? So we will start with Overseer, we'll jump to author, and then Shelly, and then we'll go ahead to our hand up. So Overseer, what were some of your challenges with writing your book? Yeah.
Number one was just getting over my own self perception, uh, not believing that I had the skill, the fortitude, if you will, the knowledge to write. I wasn't a writer. I wasn't the honor roll student, especially when it came to English, and I still can't spell. I got a thesaurus and a dictionary and my phone. I'm not as prolific when it comes to spelling and writing. So just that fear of getting over my self perception. An author writing a book. I love reading books. I've got a lot of books, but I'm going to be an author of the book. That was the greatest fear, is getting over the fear of, I didn't do well in English. I didn't do well with spelling. So how am I going to write a book? And if I can add to this, Juanita, I guess the second fear was, believing that the time crunch. It takes time to write a book. Depending on what type of book you write, it takes time, and just putting the time in. It takes time to write it. It's not going to happen overnight. My first book took me 15 years to write. Just getting to that point. So sometimes and sticking with it, not giving up. Because I don't know how many times I picked up the pen, picked up the notepad, write, then I get a brain freeze, a block. I hit a wall, can't come up with any new content, and just having to put it down and wait on the Lord for new information. I like when author said, when you're getting something from God, when He tells you exactly what to say, so that was the challenge. Number one was just how I saw myself. Two, having the patience to write and knowing that it's going to take time, and then not quitting. Just don't give up.
Pastor always takes my stuff, what I'm going to say. So I will piggyback off of some of the stuff that he said. When aspiring authors come to me, that's some of the things that they go through. Fear of being judged, number one. And as an author coach, I tell them, can't nobody judge you but the Lord above. And nobody on this earth is perfect. We all got to pass, and you got to do it scared. Number two, fear of the time management. Ladies and gentlemen, we will go to that barbershop. We will go to that hair shop. We'll get our hair cut. We'll get our nails done. We'll get the braids in. Some of them take 5 to 6 or 10 hours, they say. So if you can take the time to go to that shop and get your hair done, you can take 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, and start writing your book. As for me, the challenge that I had when I first wrote my book, writing wasn't the problem. The problem for me was self-publishing. I didn't know anything about that. My book sat for a year because I had to go to Mr. Google and Miss YouTube and piece this thing together. And once I was able to piece it together, I learned about the self-publishing aspect, and then I knew what to do from there. And I was able to just piece them all out from there. So those were my challenges that I went through.
And then for me, I think one of my biggest challenges was myself, my own mind. I've been writing for so long and had the desire to put out a book for so long, but 20 years later from like when I really got serious about writing that, my mind was like, how can you call yourself a writer or anything else and you don't have anything out? Or your mind would say, well, who will really want to read your words? Like, who really cares about what you have to say? So, kind of getting beyond self is a struggle. And though those two are not still, well, I guess my primary struggle, my mind still is a struggle from time to time, just saying that, just whatever. Um, like Miss Shelley said, learning the whole publishing process, because it can be intimidating. And so, again, it took me years to get my first book published. But then from that, when you become a published author and you really want to take your authorship seriously, it's a whole lot more than just writing a book or even publishing a book. Because what I say, tell people now is the writing and the publishing part is the easy part of it. The hard part is the marketing, the promotion, being out there. I'm an introvert, but now I got to be on camera or be on the microphone or out in public. So that's the hard part, the after work of writing and publishing the book. And then raising funds is always going to be, hopefully not always, but right now raising funds is the hard part.
I want to make sure that I give an opportunity because Pastor Crystal, she did have a question. So if you are wanting to come off of mute, you can ask your question to the group. And then we're going to jump back in because I want to ask y'all a follow-up question to that.
But I did want to ask a question in reference to in the writing process for you. Do you have those moments where you feel like you're flowing in your writing process and then all of a sudden you hit a brick wall or you just have this brain freeze where you're stuck at the writing process?
And we'll start with author. If you can answer that question, we'll jump to overseer, and then Miss Shelley, you can end us with that question. So author, what is your writing process like, right? And any challenges you have in the writing process?
So I have had those issues to where you're writing and it's just flowing, and all of a sudden it just stops. And what I've come to learn for me is that when it stops, it's okay. Because again, when I write, I try to write under the influence of God. And so once God stops sending me stuff, I don't want to add to it because then it becomes forced. And then trying to force it becomes frustrating because it's not pairing the way they're supposed to do. So, uh, and again, it's a pendulum swing. You are frustrated because it is not because you're motivated. I gotta get this, but you gotta be patient enough to wait for God to say, okay, I needed you to see this so that you could add this to what I was giving you before. Because it's a process. We don't have it all at once. Even when we're writing about our life, though we've experienced it, we don't truly know how to express it all at that initial sitting down. So we got to wait for God's onpouring to kind of give us the direction that we're supposed to go in.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to kick that question off to overseer. So what is your writing process like, and how have you overcome some of the challenges in your writing process?
Well, I'm going to say the same. I think Arthur hit it on the head. Uh, my writing process is Holy Spirit inspired. So as He inspires me, downloads through my basic daily devotion, my time in prayer, my time of studying the Word. I don't study for sermons. I study for life. You know, yeah, I don't study for a sermon. But like I'm studying for a sermon. I don't study for a sermon. I study for life. I read the Word for everyday life. And it's in my everyday life lessons that I learn how I get lessons. And how I get lessons to teach and to share. And so it's the same process. Same process when I'm writing. The Lord gives me insight, and when I hit that wall, I'm the same way. Up, that's it. I'm not going to try to force it. And I kind of my humor time with God in prayer. You ain't saying nothing. I just like, especially when I'm flowing. If he just stops, he stops, and I stop. Uh, I have to. The challenge is picking up the pen again. Because you figure you're teaching, you're doing Bible study, you're doing home Bible study, your Sunday sermons, and so you're coming sometimes from various different angles than the book that you're writing. Sometimes your book is on one subject and you're on another. So just the challenge is to remain focused when writing. And that I like that key of I put the pen down so I don't get I don't start shotgunning in my book. You're supposed to say one thing and now you're saying about 10 different things. So just staying on point. And when you said about the author's coaching, that's what helped me. You really helped me gain confidence. Being a part of your platform has given me, again, I never saw myself as a writer, but I get confidence. And I like how when you give me sort of an outline, once you figure out what I'm writing, what you're writing about, what's your contents, who's your audience, and so forth down the line. And then you'll send me some questions. And before you know it, I got one or two books in manuscript because, this author coaching hub, we're not out here by ourselves. I don't feel I got two new brothers and sisters, listening to their stories so I can gain strength from other authors as well.
Once again, he's done it again, y'all. But I'm going to piggyback one more time. Like he said, for me, as an author coach, that part, I do tell them write for 15 minutes. And then after that 15 minutes is up, either you're going to keep going, you're going to have a full chapter, or you're not. But on the same token, when you're writing your own book, after he didn't give you what he gave you, don't add to it. You can't. I mean, after just like we can't add to the Bible or subtract from the Bible, you can't add to what he already gave to you. And as with the author coaching session, sometimes we just have to, like Arthur said, drop that pen, walk away, come back. If you don't have no new inspiration, just stop.
Yes, I love that. Thank you all so much for sharing. So I want to circle back around, right? So when we talk about marketing our books, right? Because author, you made a valid point. So sometimes the writing and the publishing, getting it like, hey, I'm a published author, that's the easy part for a lot of people. But when it comes to marketing your book, and seeing a profit from the work and the time and the money that you spent putting your book out there, that is a challenge for a lot of authors, right? We often see books collect dust on bookshelves because we're just like, hey, I don't know what to do after the book is out. So what is a challenge that you faced in marketing, and then how have you overcome, or what tips or tools have you gained to overcome those challenges? And we'll start with you, Arthur, because you did make that point. So I want to, let you answer that question first.
Challenges for me, I never want to seem like I'm begging. So when I'm making posts on social media about my book, it's like these people have already seen the post. They don't want to see it again. They don't want to see it again. But the reality is that's just a small piece of it. So I asked a question in the group not too long ago about, because I use Instagram and Facebook quite often. I'm like, is it beneficial to actually boost your post? And a lot of people came back and said yes, because for however boosting works, it does actually reach more people. Um, and then I guess why I feel embarrassed or feel like you're begging when you know that this has been given to you by God, and it's like you're proud of it. I have kids, and I'm always talking about my kids, and I don't care who wants to hear about my kids. I love my kids. I'm proud of them, so I'm gonna boast them. I'm gonna push them. So why would I not do the same for me and the work that God gives me? Why would I not promote? Um, the work that God has given me. So I mean that's the struggle. But then I guess the other piece of the struggle is knowing the actual effective ways to do that to where you can maximize on what you're doing. I think a big part of that, and that's where my struggle is consistency. Constantly posting, creating a content calendar, which I've done that and still working on that to make that part less stressful for me to where it's automatic. Um, and then after so long, I think once you get the machine built, it'll start working for you instead of you working the machine. So that's really where I'm at with the marketing, promotion, and everything.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to jump in, right? So as you all give your feedback, I just want to share some tips, right? So one of the things that I can recommend, so if you are getting ready to write a book and you haven't started putting pen to paper yet, know who you're talking to, know who your audience is before you even start writing the book, because that will help you as you are formulating your message, and you need to know who you're talking to or who your target audience is when you get ready to market your book, right? So if you think about a business plan, right? Think about your authorship as a business, right? It's an authorship. Think about it as a business. When you're writing your business plan, one of the things you need to know is, who are you selling to? Who is your audience? It's the same thing when you're writing and marketing your book. You need to know who you're talking to. And you need to know that before you even put your book out there. So that's just one tip that I want to give. And I'm gonna share those, as you start to give your feedback. So we're gonna kick it back to you, Shelly. So what is one thing that you've maybe had a challenge with in marketing, and how have you overcome that challenge?
As you mentioned, you need to know who your audience is. Well, when I first started out, I didn't know who my audience was. And honestly, between all of us on here today, I still don't know who my audience is. So they tell me do a client, do a avatar, a reader avatar and all that stuff. I've done all that. I'm trying to find out right now. My challenge is finding where my audience is, where they hang out at, and all that good stuff. So that's my challenge that I'm going through. I have and I still have. So I'm working on ideas. I'm doing the consistency. I'm showing up. I'm on all the platforms. I'm doing all that, but it's still a challenge for me. So I'm still open to making sure I overcome that challenge.
Yes, absolutely. And I appreciate you being transparent in knowing what your challenge is, right? That's the only way that we can really grow and learn, is when we say, hey, this is what I'm having a struggle with. So when you're thinking about who is my audience, think about the message of your book, right? Who can benefit from the message of your book? Think about some of the struggles that you face, right? So you said single parenting, right? You write those books from that. So single parents, that sounds like your audience,
Right.
right? So that's who you need to be targeting. You want to find out where they are, what they need, and then be the solution to their problem. So absolutely, that's how you find who your audience is. For anybody who's like, hey, I'm writing a book, I don't know who I'm talking to. Think about the message or the problem that you're solving. That will help you in finding who your audience is. So oversee, we're gonna kick that question to you. So what's been one of the challenges in marketing your book? And then how have you overcome, or how are you overcoming that challenge?
Well, I would say my greatest challenge is not being as versed when it comes to uh, social media, not being a well versed social media type of person. You know, I'm on Facebook. I guess I'm on the others. Uh, my kids, have me on these other social sites. And so, because that's where everybody's at. And so when I think about my book, 10 Traits of a Man of God, is to men, right? To men, just men. Young men, married men, single men, just men. And so the challenge was, tapping into uh, the areas where I could get my book out to men's groups. And so that's what I started going to, like men's shelters, substance abuse programs. In fact, some of my uh, feedback that I got from people buying my book came from actual AA, Alcohol Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous type thing, Drug Anonymous groups that read it and said, man, this guy covered all 12 steps. And I never knew what the 12 steps were, really. And my book was spot on. And so finding my audience was the same thing, knowing and it was men. And so now find where men are and how to get my book out to men. I think the greatest challenge, though, was doing this Facebook thing, putting it on Facebook and, they say how to go viral. you know, I think one of the things was when I got a call from you that my book was, I think it was India. When someone purchased my book outside the United States, and then one of my business partners is from India and he purchased the book. He's in Texas. And so he's sending it to India himself because we share the same friend, Dr. Paris Baker. And so it's just knowing who your audience is. And then once I found out my audience, it's just overcoming social media, getting used to using social media. That was my greatest challenge. But I've, 10 Traits of a Man of God, my book is it's out there. I mean, we're really getting it out there. And here's the thing. Now I'm learning to charge people because one of the first things that I did was we purchased our books and I gave them away. I gave them to men. I wanted men to read my book. It was more important to me to put this book in the hands of men. If you couldn't afford it, but you promised you would read it, and then share your story or what touched you in my book with someone else. And it's been phenomenal, the feedback and the speaking engagements, the preaching opportunities because of that book, 10 Traits of the Man of God.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, I'm sorry, y'all. I've never had to like kick somebody out of the Zoom, but I didn't know what was going on just now. So I had to remove someone. So I guess it's making an impact and it's touching and connecting with people. And we're like, I don't know where they're coming from. So I guess you can be thankful for that, but just be vigilant. So I do see, and I just want to, I know we've gone overtime. So I appreciate you all's patience. Thank you so much for engaging in the questions that you are asking and answering authors. It's very impactful. I do see Pastor Baker on. So I don't know if you're able to come off, and if you can just, so he is like a master editor, right? He's a master, just all things when it comes to books. And so he actually edited 10 Traits of a Man of God, and he can give us like that insight when it comes to being able to make sure that your voice, what you're writing, it can reach your audience. I don't know if you can just give us like a couple of tips on how to make sure that your voice is as impactful as it needs to be in your writing.
I'm at our church, satellite church called the Golden Corral. It's the church picnic. That's why I was just listening. Okay. So the background, I can't change any of that. But so all the stuff that I heard is wonderful. I'll add a few things to what I think might be helpful. First of all, it has been I'm talking to Paris Baker first, is when you are a self-publisher, that means you have to do everything. You have to be in the grind. Like this has to be something you wake up to do, think about it every single day, because you are the publisher, the distributor, the marketing, whatever. And if it doesn't get done, it's because you don't do it. So you really got to believe in your product, your book. You got to be on fire for it. Okay. Second thing is, and I'm picking it up from overseer Harris, is if you think about, and somebody else was talking about this too. I have taken 10 Traits of a Man of God. I put it in academic, taking like little snippets, a paragraph or two, and putting it in other writings, and then using it as reference material. During Father's Day, the whole holiday in June, July, or maybe May leading into it, Because you got to think about, like, there are months that are dedicated. I heard someone talking about single parenting. There are months, like awareness months, for all that stuff. And so you got to capture those moments, market stuff, get out there. You don't have to be a whiz, Pastor Jay. You can find kids to do it for you. Like, make a reel, like read 30 seconds of the best part of your book and put it on Facebook or something. Get somebody who has a really entertaining voice, or start a podcast, or just ask questions that people can jump in, chime in, and then use the book as the reference to answering some of those questions. You are stimulating the interaction, the dialogue. There's just a lot of, you just got to be really, really creative. Like Pastor Jay, I bought the book and gave it to a treatment facility. They use it, they're still using it as a study for their ministry. They're recirculating the book and the whole bit. You just got to be really creative, get out there and just hustle. And unfortunately, my mentor, Nikki Giovanni, just passed away, but she told me in 1979 that no one's going to work harder than you. No one's going to work harder than you. So if you believe in it, get busy, and it'll be reflected in what you do. So I hope that helps.
Yes. Thank you so much. I wanted him to be able to give you some feedback, right, as we're all learning and growing in our authorship, so that you can walk away with some things tonight. I want to kick it back to our authors tonight, and I want to give you an opportunity to share one piece of advice, right? What's one thing that you would say to an aspiring author, that's like maybe struggling, right? I don't know where to start, or I don't know how to maybe finish and get my book published. What's one thing that you would say to them? And we'll start with author first with that question.
Naturally, I think the main thing is to keep going. You didn't have the vision or unction or anything just for you to kind of sit on it. So keep going. And if you don't know where to go as far as taking your next step, then you gotta put on your big boy or big girl underwears and step out and ask somebody. Look for the resources that can help to get you through whatever it is that you're stuck at. And I know even and I say that, and I'm really talking to myself because I'm not big on connections. It's really hard for me to establish and maintain connections, but we need connections in order to get to where we're going. Nobody does anything 100% on themselves, so keep going. Um, Even when it seems difficult, when it seems like it's never ending, or if it brings you tears, keep going. There's gonna be a reward for your diligence. You would hate to stop and you be like steps away from that breakthrough that you was looking for to begin with. So keep going.
Absolutely. I love that. Keep going. Yes. If you connect with me, one thing I say, and author knows this, is keep showing up, right? Your purpose is not just for you. That's so important. Somebody needs you to keep going and keep showing up. Miss Shelley, we're gonna kick it off to you. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring author?
I'm going to do a shameless plug, but I would say hire me as your author coach. Let me help you birth and deliver your book. I've done it for years. I know what I'm doing. And, with the help of God, I can help you get your book done and finished.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, that's why I say stay connected to the Authors Impact Hub, because you have that opportunity to give those shameless plugs and be able to gain some new clients. I love that. Yes. And Overseer, we're gonna kick it off to you. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring author?
One piece of advice. I tell you, I'm going to say what my brother told me when writing. And let's say the second, both books have thick skin. Have thick skin. Because when you start writing, and after you get your thoughts down on paper and you put it, you find somebody that you can give your material to, that you can have them read it and give you honest feedback, but have thick skin, because that was one of the things when I gave him my manuscript the second time, because he kind of just looked over the first one, but the second one we were a part of the same writing project, and he said, "Now make sure y'all have thick skin." And when I gave it to him, and then he brought it back, he said, "Okay, that's nice. You're telling two stories, but you got to pick one." And the one he told me to pick was the hard one, because I had to really tell about my life. And but he said, "Look, have thick skin." Have thick skin, because when he started editing and sending it back, and I had to sit down and think about it. So that's one thing I'm going to get. Is one piece of advice: have thick skin.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, I thank you all for having some thick skin tonight, right? And sharing about your journeys, giving us that feedback and those tips to help other aspiring authors coming up behind you. So I don't want to leave out an opportunity for you to be able to share. How can we connect with you, right? How can we get your books? And how can we connect with you on social media? So, Overseer, we'll go ahead and start you off first. So, how can we connect with you on social media, and how can we order a copy of your books?
It is the test question. Keys for Change, Keys for Change Ministries .com is how you can go to my website, right? And also you can find me on Facebook, Overseer J. Harrison. I'm on Facebook. Those are good ways to reach me and to connect with me. But it's Keys for Change Ministries. You can purchase the book there. You can purchase it on Amazon, but most definitely there and on Facebook.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And Miss Shelley, we're going to kick it back to you. How can we connect with you on social media, and how can we order a copy of your books?
Instagram.com/pen.paper.publish, Facebook.com/pen paper publish, Facebook.com Shelley Lee, and then my books are on payhip.com pen paper publish.
Awesome. Thank you. And then, author, how can we connect with you on social media and also order a copy of your books?
Yes, ma'am. So on all social media, I'm Arthur2, as you see at the top of my screen. So it's across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. Uh, that worked out well for me. But as far as my book layers, you could get that from my personal website, www.arthur2.com, or I'm also on any online platform, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, all those wonderful places. So just search Arthur Smith II Layers, and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you all. So I want to end it with one last question. So I typically do this for the podcast, right? So if you are tuning in and listening to the podcast, you know what that last question is going to be. And I'm just going to give that plug. Make sure that you are connected with us, the Authors Impact Hub. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all the things. You want to make sure that you tune in and listen to some really impactful conversations with some amazing authors all across the US. And next year we are going global. I'm just putting that out there in the atmosphere. So I'm going to end it with one last question, and that is, what impact do you want your author brand, your books, to leave on the world? So we'll start with you, Overseer, with that question.
And you said, what impact?
Do you want your author brand and your books to leave on the world?
Wow. That Jesus saves. That's the impact. I want someone to get to know who God is through reading my book, and to get to know him through my stories, my sufferings, my failures, and my comebacks. But most importantly, to know that Jesus saves.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Miss Shelley, we're going to kick that same question to you. What impact do you want your books and your author brand to leave on the world?
That you can turn your trials into triumph.
Yes, I love that. Listen, she's like, that's it.
That's it.
The point. Listen, I love that. And author, we're going to kick that question to you. So what impact do you want your books and your author brand to leave on the world?
It's fair to say anything that is that we're all in this together. Um, you can help me, I can help you. We all have similar stories, and sometimes we just need an opportunity to share it. So, um, I think I'm dealing with this love thing right now, especially with the climate of the world. And it's like, if we're truly doing what God has called us to do, we should be loving each other wholeheartedly, loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. So again, we're in this together. So that's the only way we're going to be able to push this mission forward, to know that I need you, you need me, and we need to work together and be on one accord.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And look, I said it's the last question, but I do have another question in the chat from one of our attendees. So I just want to make sure that we answer that question. So are these books available on Kindle or audio? Right. So author, since you've already got the floor, we're gonna let you answer that question.
So yes, ma'am, my book is available on Kindle. It is not available on Audible. That is something that I want to work towards for this book and my future books, but it is available on Kindle.
Yes, awesome. And Miss Shelley, is your book available on Kindle or audio?
Kindle, not Audible, like Arthur said, Audible in the future.
Yes, I love that. And then Overseer, are your books available on Kindle or audio?
And I'm going to turn to my author hub coach. Uh, how are we in that area?
Yes, yes. So the books are available on Kindle, not audio, but like our other two authors, listen, that sounds like a challenge for 2025. We're gonna make these books available for audio too. So I love that. I love that challenge. So that sounds like a mutual challenge between the three authors that we have on tonight.
Absolutely.
Yes, but they are available on Kindle. So what we'll do, if you join tonight, we'll make sure that we do send you those direct links, right? To those books. We'll send it to you via email. So authors, I'll make sure if you can send me those via email, send me your direct links via email to the books on Amazon. However, we can download those ebooks and then also your physical books, and we'll send that out collectively to all of our attendees tonight. Okay.
Will do.
Yes, thank you so much for taking some time out and joining us tonight. Thank you for your engaging questions. I definitely appreciate that.
Juanita, I got a question for you, Juanita,
Okay.
if it's okay. January 2025, we have something coming up, Faith While Waiting virtual conference.
Yes. So that's
That,
our virtual Faith While Waiting summit for our Faith While Waiting book. That's through the Grace for Purpose initiative. That's on January the 11th, 2025 from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll make sure we've dropped that information. So we'll make sure that we share that with you. So yeah, so oversee that is, yes, you could take the floor back over. I'll make sure we share those dates too.
yeah, just wanted to plug that. I know we're talking about marketing, and put that plug out there. And any inspiring, aspiring author, folks that are on tonight, we'd love you to register. It's free. We would love you to register, because while you're writing, you've got to have that faith while waiting. And so part of the process of writing is having the faith to finish. Faith to finish. And so you want to be a part of this conference, this summit, Faith While Waiting. Is going to be inspiring. It's really going to be inspiring to hear people's stories about their journey of waiting while believing God for the promise.
Yes, absolutely. So if you are plugged in with us, you'll see those updates. Thank you so much for giving that reminder and sharing that. And then authors, I am like super just motivated and inspired by hearing you share your testimony, sharing your journey with us. Our guests, make sure that you are plugged in with the Authors Impact Hub. If you've been thinking about writing a book, you want to plug in with us so that you can keep that motivation to write your own book, right? To write and publish your own book. So at the Authors Impact Hub, we write, connect, and transform. That's our mission. We want to be able to give you those tools and resources that you need to write and publish your books. That's very important. We do challenges. right? We motivate and we inspire one another. So whether that's through connecting you with the right publisher, author coach, the right marketing team, PRs, all the things that you need to be able to really get your book out there and make it impact. You want to make sure that you are connected with us. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are coming back 2025, bigger, stronger, better than ever. So make sure that you are connected. Subscribe to our newsletter. Listen, you don't want to miss out on what's coming. So I definitely appreciate you all tuning in tonight. Thank you. Have a safe and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Welcome to the Authors Impact Hub podcast. The Authors Impact Hub is a community of aspiring and established authors that connect, inspire, and transform.